of tomorrow's budget speech, analysts are calling for a focus on ways to help small, medium and micro enterprises. Analysts are eager to see how much money will be given to SMMEs and how enabling environments will be created. David Murobe from Business Partners Limited says there should also be a focus on how the employment tax incentive can be used to create jobs. He joins me now from Johannesburg. Thank you so much for your time this evening. I had a look at your statement, and the headline says the time for pragmatism has arrived. What does that practically mean?
It means unlock the economic opportunity. It means make sure that that economic recovery plan comes to bear. We've been speaking about it. We've been through COVID for the last 2 years. It is time now to make sure that we inject the energy that is required back into the economy.
But in your opinion, do you think there's actually a political will to do this? Like you say, we've been speaking about this for years.
Well, from the tone that I picked up from the president's SONA speech, I think there is that commitment to make things happen. I think there's the whole commitment towards addressing the red tape challenge is an indication that we want business to be able to function optimally. There's also a number of aspects that you touch on, including the addressing of blockages to the economy, such as we see with the successive load sheddings that we experience in the country. So if those things are addressed with the energy and focus that is required, we can begin to see a resuscitation of the economy. And I think that political commitment is there. We just tend to be a lot harder on our political leaders than we are on other ordinary folk.
You touched on the issue of load shedding, but Eskom, of course, remains a huge player when it comes to energy supply. What should we see then happening to that particular entity?
Well, look, it's a macro sort of address to what Eskom should be. I think there's been plans given about breaking it down into pieces, into 3 main divisions. There's also been the whole thing about bringing in independent power suppliers into play. Our concern is to make sure that business can function optimally, because the impact on ordinary small businesses on their productivity and profitability is quite enormous, and they're not able to contribute as they could to the economy. And most of them are not even able to recover timeously to be able to participate back in the economy. So from an SME front, we need some way of intervention to make sure that at least there's consistent supply of energy so that those businesses can run from. If we allow those the interruptions to happen, there are machine breakages, there's wastage of stock, and what happens to the entrepreneurs' investment in those businesses? That for us is a key concern.
What are you hoping to hear from the budget speech, especially in terms of those SMMEs and the effects the July unrest had on these businesses? How do they recover?
Look, I think the whole question of the recalibration of the loan guarantee scheme that was provided for small and medium enterprise, for businesses in general, is a key thing for me. We would like to see what is going to happen. We'd like to hear the budget, the minister talk in the budget about what is going to manifest as in the new recalibrated manner. Initially, I think we had only the banks as the channel through which to get to our small and medium enterprises. But we've got a number of non-bank SMEs, and I think there's room for them to come with a different array of or suite of products and services that they can provide to small and medium enterprises. And so we would like to get more detail about how much is going to be put in, how it will be availed to all people that participate in the assistance of small and medium enterprises through finance and other forms of business support. Because while access to finance is a very important element, our experience with entrepreneurs is that they also need that business support to be able to network with others and be provided with learning opportunities when they face challenges such as they faced in the last 2 years.
We hear a lot of calls lately around the establishment of a state-owned bank. Is this practical? Would this work? Is this something that we should be looking into?
Look, our approach has always been that of a mixed economy. There's room for a state bank to participate in areas where perhaps the private sector finds too much risk to move into. So I wouldn't go so far as to criticize having a state bank, but I also need to have an environment that is friendly to the private sector to be able to move in and respond with the speed that is required to be able to assist those small and medium enterprises and everybody, the public in general, in being able to access the support that they require. So whilst there are calls for a state bank, there may be a need in certain quarters for that, as much as there's a need in the private sector for a very responsive facility for our businesses and households in general.
Can you maybe lastly talk me through the employment tax incentive? Has that had any contribution at all?
Look, the employment tax incentive is a way that sort of alleviates the costs of employing people, especially young people, for businesses. I think that stretch has not been so much towards small businesses, and the president expressed the intention of expanding that towards small businesses as well, to be able to take on young people as new employees, for them to access the skills that they require on a cost-sharing basis with government via that employment tax incentive scheme. I think it's a very important intervention. We are sitting at a stage where our unemployment levels are probably at the highest they've ever been. We need to do something so that we can get our young people to get the skills and also boost the small businesses to be able to afford the cost of apprenticing these young people and preparing them for a meaningful participation in the economy.
Lastly, Mr. Morabe, just if you could speak to the finance minister or give him some pointers in terms of that budget speech, what should he really be focusing on?
Well, like I mentioned, the recalibration of that loan guarantee scheme, some kind of incentive for businesses to create further employment, some kind of alleviation for those businesses that have suffered as a result of the long COVID-19 lockdown strictures that they've experienced. So we need to find a way. Are they in arrears with their taxes at the moment? What needs to be happen for some kind of leniency? These are the things that I think would be very, very useful for helping small businesses to get back into the mainstream of the economy.